But it's a Rover. Yeah, but it's a GTI. Afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. Well, afternoon, it's the morning for me. What I decided to do, because it's a lovely rainy day and the kids are out, so what I've decided to do is take the missus, me, and the dog over to the seaside for well, just some fish and chips. It's probably going to take me around about an hour or so to get there, and I figured what a better opportunity than to find out what the MPG figures are on the Rover. Essentially, I think it drinks too much fuel, and I haven't really taken it on a nice long steady run. So what I'm going to do is bring her up over at the Tesco petrol station. Other stations are available, and then drive it over to the Tesco petrol station in Hunstanton, which is about 56 miles away or so. Fill her up, and then find out how much fuel that I've used. Take the opportunity to go get some fish and chips on a rainy Saturday morning / afternoon. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing again on the way back, because I want to try and get an average of the two, because a lot of people only go right from point A to point B. But I'm going to go point A to point B and then B back to A just to get an average of the two, because I suppose terrain, and that's how the Guinness Book of World Records does it. They usually have to do it twice, I believe. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy and come along for the ride. And yeah, see you in a bit. I've just filled the car up with petrol. It cost me around about £40, and I took around about 30 litres. Brought me all the way up to the top. My trip computer is sitting on 404.9. I would reset it, but I've got this weird habit where I just really like the trip computer to count up indefinitely until I sell a car. So don't hate me for it, but it sits on 404.9. We're about to set off from Tesco Hampton in Peterborough all the way to Tesco's petrol station in Hunstanton before we go get our fish and chips. I got the missus, got the dog, got the car. Let's go. Right, so we've made it to Hunstanton. Dog's not happy that he's still sat in the car. Unfortunately, it is still raining like mad. Ping the camera around. What I will do is I'll show you the trip computer now. It's 455.8, which I believe is just shy of 56 miles. What's that? 55.9 miles is what it was to get here. We can see that the fuel gauge has gone from full to here. I'm at the Tesco's in Hunstanton. There's a nice little bit of publicity for him just there. Yeah, I'm going to go over to the actual fueling station and I'll get the car filled up and then do a little bit of quick maths to find out how much money it has cost to drive here today in the old 1.8 VVC. Thank you very much, guys. I'll let you know what it is in a second. Okay, so I'm back at the Tesco's, and as you can see, the trip has now hit 507.0. I'm going to go fill her up with fuel again and see how many miles it's done, and then just sort of work out how much it's cost me overall and what the MPG is. You'll join me in a minute once I've filled it up. Right, so you join me now, sat in the Tesco's car park after I've just filled it for the second time. I had a wonderful day out at Sunny Honey. I had me fish and chips. The dog and the missus enjoyed it very much as well. Now I'm back, like I say, filled up. I've done all the equations for it. I would like to point out that price per litre in Peterborough, where I live, is £1.28.9, whereas the price per litre in Hunstanton is £1.34.9 at the exact same company. I'm assuming that's got something to do with transporting petrol to where it needs to be. However, like I say, I've worked all the things out. I've put them on my phone, although I can't just rattle it off from the top of my head. So what I'm going to do now is head off home, and then when I'm back at my office, I'll run you through the figures. And I'd say you'd think it's surprising, but it's probably not that surprising. Right, see you in the office. Right, so I'm back at home now after doing a nice trip over to the coast just to grab some fish and chips and check out the MPG on the Rover. I've got the numbers and I've wrote a few things down, so forgive me while I'm looking away from the screen. So first of all, on the way up, we used 6.25 litres worth of petrol. This cost £8.43. And on the way back, we used 6.65 litres worth of petrol, which cost £8.57, because apparently there's discrepancies in the cost per litre of petrol depending upon which Tesco petrol station you fuel from, which is a nice one. The total fuel cost for the drive, which was 102.1 miles in total, come to £17 exactly. The trip computer before leaving was on 404 miles, 0.9. And we travelled a total of 50.9 miles on the way up, which, working out for UK gallons, worked out as 37.8 MPG, which is slightly better than what the manufacturer stated for mixed driving, which is what it was. At the start of the second leg, which is the return trip, my trip computer said 455.8, and we travelled a total of 51.2 miles. I'm guessing it just took slightly longer. And this had an average MP amount of 35.8 miles per gallon. So slightly worse, not entirely too sure why. I'm guessing maybe going back it was slightly uphill, but then again I live in the Fenland, so that slightly uphill might have been me climbing a 1 metre, incline overall. The average MPG though of the overall journey came to 36.8 miles per gallon. I thought it was worth doing it in both directions because sometimes there can be slight discrepancies, and there was slight discrepancies in the journey. That 36.8 meant that the trip computer, once it was all done and dusted, come up as 507 on the dot, which worked out, should you drive from a full tank to an empty tank, of being 395.6 miles on the full 50 litre tank, which is actually only ever so slightly less than the manufacturer's state, which is 407 miles on a full tank and 37 miles per gallon on mixed driving, which would be a combination of like urban driving, so in the town, I guess, is urban driving, and then doing like commuting driving, which would be on your motorways. And the drive that I took, I'm sure some sort of overlay can magically appear next to me. If I move my head to the side, it can go on this side here. Essentially, we drove down a collection of dual carriageways, a couple of A roads. There was a couple of B roads, and there was a small amount of town driving as well. I'd probably say that there'd be stints of 5 to 10 miles worth of continuous driving, followed on by a roundabout, then maybe a bypass around the village, and then maybe another roundabout, another bypass, driving through Kings Lynn as one, with the beauty that is the Kings Lynn roundabout, which everybody knows and loves if you're in the area. Alongside the I roundabout, which if you're from Peterborough, you'll know and love that particular one as well. So yeah, I generally think that achieving the 36.8 miles per gallon was, to be fair, pretty much bang on what at the time Rover and Parkers, who I pulled the information off, have stipulated as sort of like a mid mark, and with 407 being like the max range that you can get on a full tank, and getting the average, or at least my calculations, of 395.6, pretty close, which means as a percentage, it was something like 0.5% discrepancy for average MPG, and once you multiply it over the times of the full tank, it works out as around about 2.8% discrepancy with regards to the maximum amount of miles that you can drive. Yeah, so I personally, I think it was a rather good test to find out how economical a 25-year-old vehicle is, which, well, if you compare it to your modern Yaris's, which are petrol, not just the hybrid ones, then you're probably talking a loss of, you'd probably gain an extra 15 miles per gallon. So it's definitely cheaper to have a newer, more economical vehicle. If you had a diesel, it probably would have cost me 50p. Now, that's an exaggeration, but a diesel would have been way more economical as well. I think as a continuation to the experiment, what I'd like to do is the exact same journey again. However, I use cheap supermarket fuel, just your normal E10 fuel, which if you use the government's checker, it actually doesn't state whether it's good or bad for you to do it in a Rover, because I guess no manufacturer information is out there, because the manufacturer doesn't exist anymore. But it would be good to find out whether using E5 or premium petrol would give me a better result, whether it be more economical, and besides it being more economical, whether it's more cost effective, because it does cost a lot more money for the premium fuels. Yeah, it may potentially be better for your engine, but if you're driving the same distance and it's costing you more per gallon, even if you're getting further per gallon, it may still end up being a little bit of a loss leader if it's, you know, not economically viable. It would also be interesting for me to do trips on varying other sort of like roadways. So I live next to the A1/A1M, whether it would be worth driving 50 miles up that and then 50 miles back and doing sort of like a 100-mile round trip and just seeing what the economics of that would be and how good the economy would be. Particularly being as that road I can just sit on forever, whether I drive up north towards Grantham, which is about 40 mile away, or Newark, which I think is about 50 mile away. Whereas if I go the other way, it would be Stevenage. There's a couple of roundabouts on the way to that, so that it's a bit more stopping and starting. If I sat on the A1 and then rode from Peterborough services, all the way up to Newark services and then back round again, that probably would be about 100 miles. And the only time I'd have to slow down is when I literally hit the flyover to come back round on myself. Yeah, that 100 miles should see a good, like, consistent, steady run, whether it be at 60 or 70 miles an hour. And then I'd know definitely what a quality or a more economical MPG at a consistent speed and RPM would be. That'd be quite interesting. So yeah, I'd like to do that as well. Yeah, it's because I like listening to the radio. It's not because I've got nothing else to do. It's quite interesting to find that out. But yeah, I'd like to say that my experiment that I've done so far has been a success. If you happen to be in Hunstanton, check out Henry's of Hunstanton. Fantastic fish and chip shop. It was actually the third place winner of best fish and chip shop in the UK, I believe it is. It might be East Anglia. Don't quote me on it. Look it up for yourself. But it is a quality fish and chip shop. They do normal beef dripping fish and chips, but then they also do gluten-free ones and vegetarian, oil as well if you don't want beef oil. So yeah, so it was worthwhile. Had a good bit of time out with the missus, good time out with the dog, nice little drive, worked out the MPG, only cost me £17 worth of fuel, a bit more money spent on the ancillaries, so my food and provisions while we're out there. It hammered it down with rain all day, which not exactly the best time to go to the seaside, but as anybody knows, if you live in Britain, any opportunity that you can to get out, get out. And yeah, thank you all for watching. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Hopefully I'll be able to do those other true MPG trips, one using the premium petrol and the other one just taking a run up and down the dual carriageway, or the A1/A1M, which would be quite interesting. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching, guys. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.